And welcome back to the Georgia Only Challenge, episode 3 of this series, and it's going to be our first off-season. We had finished up season 1 last episode, and it ended about how you expect season 1s to go with these series. 2-15, not good, but that first season is really just finding out who your best players are and kind of how you're going to build the team. Because with a normal fantasy draft, you'll build a team based off of what kind of style of gameplay you want to have. Do you want to be a heavy passing team? You want to be a heavy run team? Kind of go from there. But for us, it's strictly drafting people who played at a university in the state of Georgia. So it's really kind of just a test year to see how the team does and the direction that we want to go. Now, in between episodes, I have gone through and I've kind of decided a little bit the direction I want to go in, which meant updating some of these schemes. So we were running a West Coast zone run. We're going to switch to a multiple zone run. And that is primarily because I want to try to use the Carolina playbook. Now I'm choosing this playbook because our running backs are, or I should say, have a diverse play style. So they're technically all the elusive backs, but they're also pretty decent receiving backs as well, and I want to get them involved in more ways than just strictly handing the ball off to them. And using Carolina's playbook, because at this time that this playbook was put into Madden, they still had Christian McCaffrey. So that means that the running back should see more targets in terms of receptions, as well as some running, and hopefully we won't see Matthew Stafford have any more read options. So that is why we had changed to the multiple zone run. We did kind of change the defensive scheme from a multiple 3-4 to just the base 3-4. And primarily that's just to get players aligned the way that I like them. And as you could tell, it's 100% fit. This is exactly the style of defense that I like to create with all of the players matching, again, what I like. So we will also be switching our defensive playbook from Atlanta to Pittsburgh. It's a very simple, stripped down base 3-4. You can see there's not a whole lot of formations. You have your base 3-4, your dime, your nickel, prevent, special teams, and your goal line formation. So it's very basic. That's what I like. You don't need to have a whole bunch of different formations and all this chaos. Just simply strip it down and run what you do best. So hopefully these adjustments by themselves will help us out. And of course, with the scheme change and a lack of success, it would be very, very realistic that we fire our offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator and find people who properly fit the scheme that we want to build. And if that brings in some extra staff points that we can improve our team with, that works just as well. And for our offensive coordinator, we'll be hiring Sean Mora, who has that multiple zone run, as well as bringing in 57 hiring points. That'll just help us try to build the offense a little bit better. And as for our defensive coordinator, we will be hiring Thomas Peters, who has the base 3-4, as well as 63 staff points to, again, help us try to build a solid defense. Our former defensive coordinator actually had quite a few points already, or talents, I guess I should say, unlocked. But we need someone that actually fits the scheme. He was a 4-3 guy. We're running a 3-4, so Thomas Peters is a much better fit. As for a bit of a season recap, the New England Patriots won the Super Bowl 24-17, defeating the Arizona Cardinals, and the Super Bowl MVP was cornerback Michael Ajimudai? I have no idea. But congratulations, corner wins the MVP of the Super Bowl. Yearly awards, quarterback Lamar Jackson is the NFL MVP. Coach of the Year is the Patriots' Peter Gaffney. Offensive Player of the Year is Russell Wilson, surprisingly. Defensive Player of the Year, Aaron Donald. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Drake London. And Defensive Rookie of the Year is Aiden Hutchinson. We had some players in the running for the NFC side, but no one won. We had, I want to say maybe Pickens was number 2 in Offensive Rookie of the Year. And James Cook was, 8th. We had a couple other guys sprinkled throughout, but no one was close to the top. And one of the position groups on our team has gotten worse with the retirement of both defensive tackle John Jenkins and left end Justin Houston. So we're definitely going to need to try to address the defensive line as much as we can this offseason. I expected to have possibly a few more retirees. But apparently AJ Green is deciding to play at 35 years old, so that buys us at least one more year. We'll see how much he has regressed though. But next up is trying to re-sign as many of our players as possible. We have 21 players we have to negotiate with. We have also a lot of cap room. Shaq Mason is definitely going to be one of the #1 targets. I'm pretty sure he is still our highest overall player on the team. But as you can see with a lot of these guys, their re-sign interest is extremely low, except for Malik Herring, but a lot of them are going to be pretty low. So I'm basically going to have to jot down some names and make sure we come back and try to pick these people up in open free agency, because they're going to try to go for more money elsewhere. But we will end up bringing in Shaq Mason prior to open free agency. We just had to pay him a good bit of money. 3 years, 7.5 salary, 5.5 in terms of his signing bonus. So it was a good amount of money, which is pretty much all he was looking for at 30 years old. And as predicted, no one else wanted to sign, so I wrote down all their names, and we'll try to bring them back probably in that last stage of open free agency, as none of them are very high overalls. And in the first round of the open free agency, Trayvon Walker is somehow available. I don't know how, but because we don't meet any of his wants, his requirements, I guess you could say, for teams to go to, we have to pay a lot of money. It says expected value is 66.4 million. We have more than doubled that just to get to the top of the offers. And that doesn't even mean that he's for sure going to come to us. But we need as much help along the defensive line as possible, and bringing him in would definitely help provide at least a little bit of some flexibility. He is by far the highest rated edge rusher available to us. We could use some help on the interior, but for now, this is what the first period is going to look for us. There aren't really 5 guys that I feel like we need to offer right now, so this is what we have. So let's evaluate the first round of this offer here. And Trayvon Walker is not on the board. And he did not sign to us, which meant he went to one of the several other teams, probably took a lot less money because they matched his needs a lot better. As for the other 2 guys, trying to bring back Sawyer as well as the punter Camarda. They don't have a lot. I'm not offering a bunch, but they don't have any other offers, so we'll just keep evaluating, and hopefully eventually they'll decide to join, and the punter will join. So we at least got him locked down for, I think, the remainder of the 4 years, and he's getting 4 mil. So as for Sawyer, still hasn't signed with us yet, but we don't have any other offers coming in for him. So hopefully in the next round, we'll add some more of the guys from the list that previously didn't sign, and we'll go from there. And now for the second round of free agents, filled up the board with a majority of the players that were already on this team. A couple new players, or at least I think 2 new players. Sony Michel, because Matt Breida has already been picked up, was picked up in the first round, which was a bit of a surprise to me, which is why I didn't go for him. And Albert Wilson, trying to pick him up, or close, kind of tied-ish with the Vikings. We need some help in the depth of the receiving group, so offering to him. And we do not have a backup quarterback, and will not have a backup quarterback unless we trade to try to get Fromm back, because he was also picked up in the first round, which I wouldn't have expected a 60 overall quarterback being signed so early. So we're missing out on a few guys, but definitely missing out on Walker is a big one. But let's evaluate these, and hopefully we get some players back. First round in, and a couple other teams are coming in for some of our players, so we'll need to adjust some offers. But we do have Camarda back. Wilson does join. Terry Godwin returns. McKitty returns, who might be a starting tight end for us this year. We're not quite sure. And Malik Herring returns as well. So we will need to up the contract offers for Sawyer, who is technically one of our would hopefully be one of our starting tackles, and Trey Hill, who's one of our better backup offensive linemen. And now with us back in the lead on both of these players, as well as still being in the lead for the other players, let's evaluate one more time. A good chunk of them are no longer on the list, so I would assume they have come back. Sawyer did come back. We saw Wilson, Godwin, Kitty, Schaefer, maybe a new one, and Trey Hill is in. So we're getting back a majority of our guys, which is always nice. And for the last evaluation for this round, we'll go ahead and toss that in. See, nope, neither of them signed, so we'll see if they're still interested or if they end up signing with the third round. And now for the final round, have the board filled with as many Georgia players that I could find that at least could help us out in some way, or at least are on the younger side. So Jeremiah Tachu is on the list. He's on the older side, mainly just to provide us with any sort of depth that we could find for our defensive line. So we'll evaluate these, and hopefully a good chunk of them will sign, and most of them do. And no one else had any other offers, so they're definitely all coming to us. Tariq Carpenter is holding out. We'll evaluate one more time, and he joins. So our free agent class ends up looking like this. Sony Michel, running back. Jake Camarda, punter. Left tackle, Jamari Salyer. I always mess that name up. I just want to assume that it is Slayer. Albert Wilson, the receiver, as well as Terry Godwin and Penny Hart. Trey McKitty, tight end. Malik Herring, left end. Isaiah Wilson, right tackle, who will come in as probably one of our better right tackles, maybe even as a starter if we end up not getting the tackle in the draft. Tariq Carpenter, free safety. Justin Schaefer, left guard. Jonathan Ledbetter, left end. John Fitzpatrick, tight end. Daryl Baker Jr., cornerback. Trey Hill, center. And Jeremiah Atachu, outside linebacker. So no splashy pickups here. I think the highest overall is the 74. Really would have been nice if we could have gotten Trey Walker, but just wasn't meant to be, and I threw money at him. He just didn't want to come. And we are now in draft week, so let's talk about our class. Once again, not a lot of players, a total of 8. And we could go through, try to talk about them a little bit. There is John Burris, a running back, projected round 2 to 3. I don't think it's necessarily a spot we need to go at. He's on the smaller side, would probably fit with the style that we play at, has a lot of speed. I mean, it's sub 4.4, so I mean, definitely has a lot of speed. Acceleration is solid. In terms of his skill set, I mean, not bad with B awareness, ball carrier vision, and break tackle. Has a stamina, a little bit of some spin move, doesn't have any juke move, which is kind of weird. And B to C catching, so a decent receiving back. We only have a first round pick and 2 4s and a 7. We ended up trading the current 2 and a future 2 to bring in Jordan Davis, and we traded the third round pick to bring in Mecole Hardman. So there's not necessarily any guys in the mid round that we really are trying to go after, and we could definitely trade down. There is one receiver in this draft class that's a day 3 projected, as well as talent. Now, the weird thing is that during the season, the tackle, Brandon Kellum, dropped down from around 1 to 2 projected to around 2 to 3, but his actual talent is around 1 to 2. So I definitely feel like we're going to be trading down in this draft to find him at a better spot, so we're not completely overdrafting him. We do know all the information we can find on him, and he doesn't have great bench reps. 29 to 33. I'm thinking a right tackle with that kind of scenario, and his skill set was exactly as I projected. C's across the board for run blocking, A's across the board for pass blocking. He would technically fit more in that aspect as a left tackle, but considering the strength issue, I'm thinking maybe right tackle. I don't know. We'll see where he best ends up fitting, but he's definitely our number 1 priority in this draft class. The rest is just going to be a toss-up. There is a cover linebacker, Damian Claiborne, projected around 3 to 4, is actually around 2 to 3, and we don't necessarily need a linebacker. I always say running back when I mean linebacker. We don't necessarily need one, but we could bring one in if he's available. But again, depending on what we end up getting with a trade down, probably won't have a pick for him unless we end up trading up to try to pick him up. He has some decent speed, okay broad jump. He's actually pretty quick. 20-yard shuttle was best in the class, third in 3 cones. So he has talent. Cover grades are A's, tackle A, awareness A. He seems to be a really good really good linebacker. Once again, I try to say running back, but I don't necessarily think we have to go after him. So we'll play the draft a little bit by ear, but very much so our number one guy that we're trying to go after is Brandon Kellum. And they currently don't even have him going until late second round. So we could really trade back pretty far and rack up some current and future draft capital before we end up picking him up. But I still want to make sure we pick him up at a safe spot. So maybe even early second round is a possibility. So we'll see what we can do here, but it's definitely time to jump into this draft. And we actually have the first overall pick, not all too surprising considering we only had 2 wins. But that means we could really try to use this pick to maybe get a player as well as some draft capital. So let me do some work a little bit off camera and see what I can find out that might be able to help us the best. And we have worked out a deal with the San Francisco 49ers to find the best fit for our needs and to try to bring in as much capital off of it as possible. We're going to bring in Wyatt, who is listed as the right end, kind of has more of a defensive tackle kind of build, which will help us in the nickel because we're going to need a bigger guy on the inside than what we have on roster. We'll bring in a current 2, so we're dropping out of the first round entirely, which is fine. Again, if Madden allowed us to have more than just 3 things that we could put in this, we probably would have. But we'll bring in a current 2 and a future first round pick. So next year we have 2 first round picks. Best thing that we could work out right now. And as a reminder, projected round 1 to 2, he was supposed to go in like the 50s-ish. We have a 41st, I think is what it was. We have the 9th pick in the second round. He's the second best left tackle, so I'll keep an eye on it, and if anything crazy happens, we'll come back, but hopefully we'll be at pick 9 in the second round to draft our tackle. And we have safely reached the 9th pick in the second round, and the tackle listed prior to our guy still hasn't gone. I took a look at the trade offers to see if we wanted to just try to trade down. Our guy's still not expected to go for another 11 picks. So we could try to do something. Nothing really popped up that was intriguing to me that gave us a second round pick and like 2 to 3 picks and gave us a third rounder to maybe try to get the linebacker. We may end up trying to trade up for him just to capitalize off of the picks we do have, because once again, not a lot of available players for us. But I think first and foremost, we definitely want to make sure we're getting this tackle. We know he's going to provide some good pass blocking, which was a bit of a struggle for us last year. Our tackles gave up, I think, 15 and 20 total sacks for each. So upgrade where we can. Brandon Kellum is the first draftee. He is a normal dev. 85 strength isn't awful. If we could get to that +4 strength, that could be going up to an 89, and I think that'd be perfectly fine to play on either side. We'll find out what his overall is at the end of the draft. So now we can wait until the first pick of the 4th round, or we could maybe see where the linebacker is expected to go and maybe trade up for him. As we check the total board now for the linebackers. Oh, he's an outside linebacker. That's why I was like, he's not on here. Damian Claiborne is still the 5th guy. Projected around 3 to 4 is actually around 2 to 3. If we go to the total overall board, try to find where he's at. So they don't expect him to go for another 40 or so picks. So if we could get to around the same spot in the 3rd round and he hasn't gone yet, perhaps we trade up for him. But unfortunately, he does end up going just a little bit before of when I had planned to maybe try to make a trade. I was trying to wait that full round, wait a couple more picks, and then maybe see, but the Bears ended up snatching him up. So with our remaining picks, no one really that we're trying to go after, so maybe we make a trade with him. We'll see what's available. And we have worked out a deal with the Rams for Isaiah McKenzie, the receiver. He'll come in as our 3rd guy that we could really just have a full set I've at least some younger guys. He is 28 years old, so has a couple more years he can maybe get better, maybe only a year before regression hits, but we just have to send over our earlier 4th round pick and our 7th round pick. We still have a 4th round pick, and there's a player I have in mind for it. It might be a slight overdraft, but we'll just go with it. And with our last draft pick, it is a later 4th round pick. I want to go after wide receiver Carl Glenn. He is 6'5", 231, 22 years old. He played at Georgia. We look at the physicals, 18, 19 reps, pretty strong for a receiver. Also has pretty good speed, ran about a mid 4.4, so that's not too bad. His shuttle, though, not great. 3-cone, not great. Vert, a little less than average. Broad jump, about average. But when we look at the skill set, I see B, run block, and I'm thinking with the size, with a little bit of strength, and the ability to have maybe some amount of run blocking, I'm thinking we move him to tight end. Maybe we could go a little bit more spread wide. Again, he is 6'5", 231, which is, I would say, pretty close to the size of most tight ends coming out of college nowadays. So, might be a slight overdraft. We could maybe try to get an extra pick out of it, but there's no reason to. I want to try Carl Glenn at tight end. So he is our 2nd draft pick. Only a normal dev. Strength is a 67, which honestly isn't too far off of a lot of these tight ends. 89 speed will be very fast for a tight end. Decent jumping, acceleration is decent, change of direction. I mean, these look like tight end numbers to me. We'll see how well he fits. And here we are, the overalls of our 2 draftees. And this is prior to moving Glenn to tight end. Brandon Kellum, a starting tackle for us, is a 73 overall, which is actually a higher overall than either of our tackles. We had a 70 overall and a 66 overall, so this is an upgrade no matter what, and a solid guy to pick up in the 2nd round. And he does have really good pass blocking ratings. We'll need to work a little bit on some of that run blocking, but since the run block is a bit lower, I think we do keep him on that left-hand side. But he will start with actually an 82 for his pass blocking, 81 for pass block power, and 78 for pass block finesse. Lead block, 78, impact 77, and awareness is a 76. Solid start, and he actually has some pretty good speed, good stamina. His toughness is okay, injuries really good. I think that's a solid guy to pick up. We didn't have to, actually, we gained a good bit from him as well, because we did get a trade with a future one as well as a player, so that is really good. But let's switch Glenn over to tight end and see where he goes to. He was a 66, so hopefully that will go up. And he does go up as a tight end up to a 69, which will be about on par with what majority of our tight ends are. So we definitely have some competition at that spot. 52 run block honestly is pretty close to what a lot of our tight ends are. 76 catching, 89 speed. Awareness will definitely need to get worked on, but he's going to come in with good route running for a tight end with 87 acceleration, 77 catch in traffic, and 83 spec catch. He also has 73 break tackle as well, so solid guy and can probably help us out after the run, or after the catch, I mean. So I think that worked out pretty well. We found ourselves a tight end we could try to develop. It'll pretty much be a competition between him, McKitty, and Warner. So not too bad. But again, we also need to remember we traded for some other guys in the draft. Isaiah McKenzie will come in. He is our 3rd best receiver, and I'm probably going to play him at the slot, and Hardman will go into his official role on the outside as our deep threat. We also ended up picking up Devontae Wyatt. He is 25 years old, but only in his 2nd year. But he has a good amount of size to him. He's 304 pounds, 6'3", and he has some good strength, 86, with some good speed, has some finesse moves as well as some block shedding. So I think he will fit fantastic in the middle alongside of Davis when we go to the nickel. And will also probably play just as well when we're in our base 3-4. So we were able to address most areas of concern of this team. Still have to work on a few spots, like left end is looking pretty weak, but there's no one else to really add. We also will be getting back, because injuries kept him out the previous year, Eric Stokes at corner. He'll come in and be our second best corner. We'll move Chandon Sullivan to that nickel corner role, and as well as getting Lewis Seen in, who was also injured in year 1. We did have a backup edge rush kind of guy in Jordan Jenkins, who's still injured, but will be back, I believe, by the time the season rolls around. Yeah, he's only out for 2 more weeks. So yeah, he'll be good to go for season, and at least will provide us a little bit of some depth. So overall, this offseason, the team did improve. We're now a 77 across the board. We changed our scheme on offense. We changed our scheme on defense. Hopefully, next episode, we'll get through again that first half of season 1. That's what I think I want to do for all of the seasons, is the first half, get it through in one episode, and then depending on how well it goes or how bad it goes, will kind of depend on, or kind of change how we do the second half, whether it's 1 episode, 2 episodes. If we make the playoffs, we'll go from there. But a good start here, and hopefully we have a much better draft class the next go around, and I'm really hoping for a quarterback. But we'll see you next time, so make sure you stick around. If you're not already subscribed, do hit that button down below. Also, go ahead and tick that bell icon to be notified of when these videos go live. State-only challenge, posted every Wednesday and Saturday. I also have a traditional franchise with the Cardinals. I post that on Monday and Thursday, so you got 4 videos a week. And until the next video, we'll see you guys later. Bye.